Hi, everyone. This is Let Me See Your Transcript, your very favorite history teacher. And tonight I'm bringing you my very special guest, Dee Dee Watters, who is a trans activist here in Houston, Texas. Okay. So please come on in, have a seat. Hope you have your favorite drink, your favorite popcorn, favorite snack. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay. Dee Dee, you ready? Yes, you are.
Hello there. How are you?
I'm doing great. How you doing tonight? This evening? Can you hear me? Is there a delay? I guess there's a delay. Hold on. Let's try one more time. Edie, we're having some technical difficulties. Okay. Please, having some technical difficulties. Thank y'all for being patient with us. Hey, April, Jacqueline, Love Kings, 15 parts. Edie, you ready? We lost you for a minute.
Oh, yes. What I had to do was I wound up turning my Wi-Fi off, so that I
Oh,
think that
okay.
may have helped out. I hope you didn't get me just licking this spoon. If so, that was a
I did. That's
professional,
fine.
classy, you know. Oh, wait a minute. This is Kool-Aid. I'm classy. I drink it in a wine glass.
That's fine. Because Luther Vandross used to drink his Kool Aid in a martini glass.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right. So I'm gonna be
Thank you,
transparent. There really
Doctor.
ain't no Kool-Aid, but yes, I'm here.
That's fine. Me and my friends, we have drunk on the show. It has been,
Oh, that is so great. I just want to be drunk on the show. That's what we'll
okay,
go
yeah,
for.
okay. So everyone, I want you guys to meet my Facebook friend Dee Dee Watters, who is a trans activist here in Houston, Texas, among her other talents. And so, Dee, tell everyone who you are.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Dee Dee Watters. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, which is important, especially whenever we're talking about trans lives and trans bodies, right? I mean, I don't know what to say. Like, I'm a human being who is concerned, and because I've had certain experiences, lived experiences, I'm concerned. I'm concerned about our well-being as people. I'm concerned about the people that look like me. I'm concerned about the people who have a lived experience like me. I'm just a little concerned, and so overall, I know that you want me to tell you about me. But overall, I'm an activist. I am a I'm an advocate. I'm a leader. And without all of that, I'm just another person. And I'm just here to be able to treat people as I would want to be treated. So if I curse you out, it's because I wouldn't mind getting cursed at because I know I did something wrong.
Mhm.
Okay. So, but that's where that comes from. So I'm really just another individual who is here just trying to exist and thrive on the face of this earth like everyone else is. And hopefully we can have some good dialogue on today and go into some really deep conversation and see where that takes us.
Okay, I definitely agree. Can you tell us, are you a Houston native or you a Houston transplant? Did you come from somewhere else?
So I am a Houston native, born and raised. I grew up on the north side of Houston, predominantly in the Cashmere Garden, Trinity Garden, Fifth Ward areas,
Mhm.
kind of all over really. But I spent my younger life in the north side of Houston, and after I transitioned and life hit, got put out and all that other kind of stuff, I moved over to the southwest side.
Okay, I remember. I saw you give your talk or your speech, I don't know, with your sermon at the First Congregational Church, and you said something that really hit me. Can you tell us what happened when you came out to your? Will you let them know? Can you tell them what happened to you when you came out to your mother?
um, well, yeah. So I was a guest. They invited me as a guest pastor there to do a sermon, which I was really grateful for. I haven't done a sermon in quite a while, so that was really really exciting and interesting. It was also interesting to do it virtually, so that was a whole nother conversation. I was waiting for an amen or something, couldn't get none of that.
Mm-hmm. I was
But
an amen at home.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. So what wound up happening was that do you want the story of what happened, or you just want me to say like what the gist of it was?
Whatever you're comfortable with.
Oh, I mean, baby, I'm transparent. My last name
Okay, you
Waters.
can tell
We
us the whole
clear,
story, because I
honey.
want you to tell you the whole story, because a lot of people who do follow me and other people, a lot of them are religious, and I do
Mhm.
interview with different people because I want people to be more informed. I'm a teacher, so I want you to
Mhm.
leave
Mhm.
my live more informed than what you came with.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I just,
Mhm.
and one of the things I like to tell everyone is that, hey, there are those who are here went to church and we're supposed to be Christians, but we didn't do that all, and we didn't treat other people like Jesus told us to treat people.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
think some people are not real, they don't get that connection. I want them to understand, like, hey, this is what happened to Dee Dee. So if I come across this in my church, this is what I'm supposed to do,
Mhm.
and not what
So
previous
yeah,
generations have done.
right. So
Mm-hmm.
I totally hear you now. I think that it's important, first and foremost, that we are reminded about the conditions of which we were brought up in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And many of us are conditioned, especially if we grew up religious.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I grew up Southern Baptist, so like we were very
Mm-hmm.
religious.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody who wasn't Southern Baptist, they wasn't making it into them gates, baby. So
Mm-hmm.
we
Yeah.
had certain ways and certain things that we thought. But at any rate, so the shorter end of the story is that I was one of the few people that contracted West Nile. I before I contracted West Nile as growing up as a kid, as a child, I spoke at multiple churches. I spoke at schools. Like, I mean, I'm 10, 11, and 12 speaking at all these different types of places, which was really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
After I finished surviving West Nile, after I beat West Nile and got out of the wheelchair, I went into my transition. My mother was there with me at the hospital in the ICU room every day. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
my mom lost a really good job. My mom also was raising my little brother
Um,
and my little sister. So
mm-hmm.
I'm sure that things were tough.
Mm-hmm.
And so once I overcame those things, I wind up saying to myself that, you know what, my grandmother, she died while I was in the hospital fighting West Nile. And
Oh.
one of the things that she told me before she died, and I don't even know how, but she told me, she said, as long as you can love God, she said, that's all that you need, baby. She said,
Mm-hmm.
that's it. She said, you ain't got to like nobody. You ain't got to do nothing with nobody. But as long as you can love God, you'll be okay. She said, to be able
Mm-hmm.
to love God means that you love any and everybody. Ain't mean you got to like them. You just
Mm-hmm.
love God. And so whenever I got back to being able to walk again and stuff like that, I wind up going back into transitioning, trying to really figure out what that was. Of course, I was sneaking because my mom, would have reacted differently in my eyes,
Okay.
right? But she reacted just the way she reacted in a way that I assumed that she would, but multiplied by a million.
Oh.
So I never forget. I never forget. I forget a lot of things, but I never forget. I never forget. I was walking up to the door at the house and I took my keys out and I went to unlock the door. And baby, I don't know how other people mamas was, but my mama could know whenever you was getting ready to open that door. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as soon as I got ready to put that key in there, that door swung open like it was the gates of heaven. And she was standing there. And I looked at her, and my mother had on she had on a pink shirt. It was a pink shirt with Snoopy. I don't know if you all remember Snoopy, but
Mm-hmm.
Snoopy was laying on the top of a doghouse on Snoopy's back, and there was
Mm-hmm.
a rainbow that went across over the top of them. And my mother looks at me and she say, "Oh, do you like my shirt? You like my shirt, my little outfit?" And I look at her and I'm like, "Oh yeah, it looks nice." Mind you, my mother has on my shirt.
Oh.
So my mother has on my shirt when she's asking me that. And so in my mind, like things are just like going just 1,000 miles a minute. Like, I mean,
Mm.
like, I'm just like, oh my God, just go to the room, go to the room, go to the room. And so we stayed in an old wooden house out there in Fifth Ward. And
Mhm.
I remember I went in my room, I closed my door. And as I closed my door, I went and sit on my bed and I just was sitting there thinking to myself, like, what is fixing to happen? And I could hear my mother's footsteps as she stomped down
Oh
that hallway.
wow.
Oh, I could hear them. And baby, I looked up and I never forget it. As I looked up, because I knew them footsteps was getting out, I looked up and I heard boom, and the door got kicked open.
Oh.
And as I looked at that door as it flung open, my mother was
Mhm.
standing there and her foot was coming down. And she told me, well, it's bad language that's in it. But you can get the gist of it. She told me to get my things and to get out. She reminded me that whenever I brought you into this world, you came into this world naked.
Mhm.
So when you leave my house in what you came here in. Whatever it is that you bought, you can take that with you. This here girl stuff, you can take that with you. That's what you can wear to go wherever you're going. And be mindful that I grew up in the North Side. This was
Mhm.
in the Fifth Ward area, very close to the Cashmere Garden borderline.
Mhm.
Um, and there's a ton of people playing basketball in the front yard because my little sister played basketball, so we had a
Mhm.
basketball goal. That was just that it was a lot, and
Mhm.
um, that experience was just a whirlwind of an experience. Upon becoming homeless, remember those churches that I told you that I had went and spoke at and all those types of
Mhm.
things. Um, the first thing that came to my mind is that I could go to the church,
Mhm.
because when I went to that church and I spoke, there was so much that people gave to me and poured into me outside of the speaking part, right?
Sorry, that's my dog.
That's okay. I thought it was mine for a minute, then I knew she wouldn't bark, but that's fine. So you need me to hold on a second?
You can keep talking.
Oh, okay. All right. And so I went to a few of those churches that I had spoke at before. And while I went to those churches, again, remember, I'm still in the same clothes of which I had left from my mother's, which weren't clothes that looked like I should have been in. Um, and while I was there, I'll never forget the way that they turned me away. They stopped me before I could get into the door at some of them. Some of them I was able to make it inside and try to talk to people. And I remember one Sunday, something told me to go to this one church specifically.
Mhm.
And I went to that church. And when I went to that church, I mean, like, soon as I got there, one of the ushers came. I mean, it was just like, I don't know what it was. It was mythical. I mean, she came and she like levitated to me and she said, no, you won't. No, 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 you won't. And I was sitting outside and a church mother, because back then, we did
Mhm.
Sunday dinner, Sunday meal after church after service. She was gonna eat after service, and she wound up sneaking me a plate around back, and she
Mhm.
did it to the point to where she made the plate and she just came out there. She said, "Baby, here you go. Here's a plate." She gave me a plate of food and I was able to eat. And that meant everything to me. It hurt me because the way that the other churches like told me no, like pushed me away, told me no, tried to cast things out of me, all this other kind of stuff. And but this church mother came out and made it her duty to come and bring me a plate of food. The
Mhm.
reason why that's important is because whenever we sit here and we talk about the things that have happened to us in church and we talk about church, we have to separate church from people. And when we separate church from people, we gain an understanding in that church is the body of Christ, right? So that's the
Mhm.
people that are making up that body. So I can't say that church has done me wrong because ain't no church got up and came and hit me. You get what I'm
Mhm.
saying? The
Yeah.
church didn't put me out. The people that were a part of the church were the ones that shunned me away or put me
Mhm.
out or kept me out. And when you look at that, instead of always blaming things on church, I like to blame things on people
Mhm.
because people are the source. And if they're the source of the things of which are happening, I can't blame church for that, because some of my best times and best moments and greatest moments in my life took place in church, at the church. You know?
Mhm.
And so I just think that it's important that we're mindful of that. But that was the very short part of me and transitioning and becoming homeless, and the way that the church also played a role in that within like my transition.
Dee Dee, Dee Dee, where'd you go? Are you there, Dee Dee? Okay. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay.
Let me see. You can hear me? Because I
Yeah, I
can't
can hear
hear
you.
you now for some reason.
Oh, really?
No, it's probably me. Let me. I'm probably gonna have to leave out and come back in,
That's
because it looks
fine.
like my sound isn't there. I'm gonna leave out and come right back.
Okay. All right. Hey, thank you guys so much for dealing with us with technical difficulties. Thank you so much. I know some of you have questions. That is great. Save those questions. So put it on a sticky note somewhere. I'm going to give you guys a chance to ask Dee Dee some questions. Um, yes, there. I know what question you're going to ask. And Dee Dee in the chat. Don't encourage him. Please, please, please hit the like button. There's 13 likes and 22 of you are in the chat. So, and please like, share this interview, okay? All right.
All
All right.
right.
You're back.
I had
Okay.
a phone call come in,
I wanted to
and
ask
that's
you,
what
okay,
happened.
so you were living. Oh, okay, yeah. Sometimes they will bounce, bounce you out of your stream. So where did you go for help? Like when you say you were homeless, you were living on the street, did you get a chance to go to community college, graduate high school? Did you find someone
So
to live with?
no. Everything that you just
Oh,
said, no, was an
oh
absolute no.
wow.
We must be mindful that we're speaking in reference to nearly, like, 15, 16, 17 years ago, whenever
Mhm.
I was transitioning, and when I was starting my journey in transitioning. And so, one, going to college really wasn't that big of an option, because I had a really bad temper. And I'm gonna say had, past tense. I had a really bad temper, and my temper caused me to do a lot of fighting. And I
Mhm.
fought a lot of big people. I didn't like bullies, and so I guess because I fought so much, I didn't really have bullies like that. But I didn't like to be in the atmosphere of them,
Mhm.
if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
because of I knew hurt, that was a fuel to the fire a lot of times. Now, when it came down to finishing high school, I was unable to finish high school because of West Nile.
Okay.
And up on that, I mean, we had teachers come to the hospital to try to work with me. Whenever I got out of ICU and left Herman Hospital, I still was in and out of the hospital for about a whole nother year and a half after that. Just in
Mhm.
and out, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe three at the most. So it was really, really difficult to be able to finish school. And then I wound up going back to CLC, was the school that I
Okay,
went
I
to,
remember that.
CLC. And when I went back to CLC, that's when I started back, going into things and doing things. And that's also when my mom found my clothes and stuff. So that's whenever I got put out. Upon getting put out, it just became ridiculous. I wound up waiting until I was probably around about 20, and then I got my GED situated.
Mhm.
But still going to college wasn't really an option. I was in survival sex work. I didn't have time for things like that. Going to college wasn't really too much of an option. I was not fixing to allow people to disrespect me, especially whenever I felt like I started getting somewhere in life. I refused to let that happen.
Okay, let me ask. I'm gonna go back to something you said. You said you were in transition. So what was that exactly? What were you doing in transition? Was it just wearing women's clothes? Did you start wearing makeup? Did you start hair? Were you taking hormones? Uh,
So all of those things, all of those
okay.
things, all of those things. So I started doing the hair and dressing up first, and then I started buying hormones off the streets. Again, of course,
Oh,
I was homeless, and so now I'm making money to buy hormones to have a place to be able to stay. Hormones weren't that important, And one of the most important things is that because, especially, so I'm going to speak from a Black perspective, right? Because I'm Black, right? It just makes things a whole lot easier. So
Mhm.
for me, growing up then and transitioning then, we were so stuck in the binary.
Mhm.
And within the binary, that meant that we seen male and female, right? And
Mhm.
for female, we seen a certain image and a certain look.
Mhm.
And so hormones became a thing that were important. After I was going through my transition for a while, hormones were not as important for me because of health reasons.
Okay.
And so, right. And so that made me understand a little bit more that hormones are not needed, just as well as surgery is not needed for someone to identify as trans.
Okay. 'Cause I think a lot of times we get in the news it's like, oh, it's the hormones, it's the surgery, and but most of the people we're seeing, they're entertainers or it's Hollywood, um, from their perspective. I want to go back to what you said because I don't know if anyone else caught it, but I understood. But for people who don't understand what it is, what do you mean you were doing? I know what you mean when you say you were doing survival sex work, but what do you
Hmm.
mean it to other people out there?
So when you think of survival sex work, it's exactly what it sounds like. I was doing sex work in order to survive. I wasn't able to get a job. I wasn't able to do anything. Again, one, I was undereducated. Two, I didn't have a GED or a diploma at that time. But really,
Mhm.
even once I had my GED, I still was in survival sex work because I still was unable to get a job. A lot of people don't understand how hard it is whenever you transition,
Mhm.
especially when you're Black in transition. What does that look like trying to go and get a job? So you wind up finding
Mhm.
yourself having to do whatever it takes for you to not have to sleep on the streets. Until you have
Mhm.
slept on the streets,
Mhm.
until you've slept at a bus stop, until you've even slept in your car. Okay, to sleep in
Mhm.
your car still gives you shelter. So let's be clear on that.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's like you get to a place to where you can't go back home. You can't go to the shelter because the shelter won't allow you in. They'll let a rapist go into the shelter before they allow a trans person to go into shelters.
Oh
And that
wow.
was a problem. And so when you're going through so many of these things, you literally start to say to yourself, what is it that you can do? And yes, survival sex work is prostitution. And if you want to look at it that way, you're more than welcome to, because that's the definition of which we've used previously in the past. But at the present, in the presence where we are right now, instead of just saying prostitution, we took it up a level and we said survival sex work.
Oh, okay. Thank you for explaining that. What finally was the point at where you were no longer homeless and that you had your own place, you have, maybe a new family, new friends, and then you got into being an activist.
So I got into being an activist whenever I became homeless, actually. So while I was doing survival sex work and I was homeless, I was getting into activism. And the reason why I was getting into activism was because I didn't really have a choice. I was meeting
Mhm.
people who were going through certain things. I was seeing things that were happening. And I wound up having to sit there and say to myself, like, if this can happen to them, what makes me
Mhm.
any different?
Mhm.
And I didn't even know that I was getting into activism. I just thought that I just felt like, again, I don't like bullies.
Mhm.
So my mind was, this not gonna work for me, because if they're doing it to them, they'll do it to me. And that's
Mhm.
not going to work. That's not fair. That's not how we do things. Like, that's not the way that this is supposed to go. That's not how this is supposed to be at all. And so I decided that I wanted to start stepping up and just doing stuff. And
Okay.
because of the fact that I was in survival sex work, meant that I didn't work for anyone. Because of the fact that I was living in a hotel, even and whenever I was homeless, I didn't have to worry about someone putting me out. The hotel would put me out if I didn't pay my room fee, but as long as I paid my room fee and I wasn't loud or doing certain things, I was still fine. So there was a certain amount of freedom of which I had whenever it came down to opening my mouth and speaking up on others' behalves.
Mhm.
The reason why all of those things are important is because within all of that, even whenever I had a place to stay, I was still in survival sex work because I was
Mhm.
stuck without being able to get a job. Now I have a place to stay instead of paying for a hotel room every week or every day. I
Mhm.
mean, you know, when you look at it from a perspective, the reality is that I was deep into activism and I was still doing survival sex work.
Oh, okay. And so, what became at the point where you no longer had to do survival sex work?
Mm. My daddy, may he rest in peace, may the Lord rest his soul. He he asked me a question, a very simple question, which was, what type of woman are you looking to portray? Like, what type of woman are you portraying?
Mm-hmm.
And when he first asked me that question, I got really, really upset with him because I said, well, you know, Daddy, you asking me a question like that, but I pay my own bills. I have a whole 2-bedroom apartment that's fully furnished. I'm not asking you for anything. My refrigerator is full. My pantry is stocked. You know, like, why would you even say that? And
Mm-hmm.
he was like, I don't know why you're taking it there. I'm asking you an extremely simple question, which
Mm-hmm.
is, what type of woman are you portraying? And within that, it sparked something inside of me to want to do more. And when I say to want to do more, I didn't want to just keep waking up and staying at home and living life and doing certain things, um, depending on survival sex work. You know, the
Mm-hmm.
money was good, but it wasn't there. And what a lot of people also don't understand is that when you get into survival sex work, after a certain amount of time, it becomes kind of like a drug of which you're addicted to. And for me as a Black trans woman, my experience, because that's where I'm coming from, is my experience. My experience was that whenever I would go out, I never forget the first time I went out to the block. I went with with a good friend of mine's now, Kiki, because when I was homeless originally, I didn't know nothing about the block. I didn't know nothing about how to do any of that kind of stuff. I just was homeless and asking for change and going through drive-throughs, picking up change off the ground that people would drop. You know, like all these different types of things. And so I remember I went with Kiki, and my mom had just had like the nastiest conversation with me. And I felt so,
Mm-hmm.
so low. And as I was walking out there, this guy pulled up, really nice looking guy pulled up, and he offered me money, told me that I was beautiful, made me feel like I was worthy. And see,
Mm-hmm.
what we forget about is that whenever mama, right? Mama, mama
Mm-hmm.
who will pull you into her bosom and just hold you there for a minute so that you can smell her skin, so that as her heartbeat, your heartbeat would match that. And when she breathed in, you would breathe in too. Mama,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
when mama closed the door on me and an opportunity for someone to see me came about, that was something that was revolutionary for me. You know, and it's amazing because we don't never look at it from that perspective. And the thing is that I have someone who is willing to not only make sure that my room fee is paid for the night, hello, also willing to stop and pick me out of all these other people, out of all these other girls, you know, and to tell me that I'm beautiful. And even if it was a lie, or even if it was just for that 5,
Mm-hmm.
10, 15, 20 minutes, I mattered and I was seen, I was visible. And so that was important. And what winds up happening is that after a certain amount of time, you get stuck there. And although you sit there and people can talk about all day long how there's job opportunities and trans people are getting work now and all this other kind of stuff, you're not coming from a trans perspective. That's not your experience. And even if you want to say something like that, I want you to look around your job and I want you to tell me how many trans people you see there. I want you to look around your job and see how many members of the L, the G, the B, the Q, the I, the A, and the plus communities that you see there. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of times you'll see more gay and lesbian and bisexual people that are in the workplace. But when it comes down to trans people, unless you're working in fast food or call centers, these are the places where we are able to
Mm-hmm.
actually get a job. But is it worth it? In
Mm-hmm.
call centers is messy. So just imagine what that's like working in a call center being trans. Fast food people are arrogant and ignorant and have
Yeah.
attitudes. So imagine what that's like. You know, so when we
Mm-hmm.
sit here and we want to look at things and try to look at it from certain perspectives, like we have to really be real about that. The only reason why I made it the way that I made it and to the place that I've gotten to is because for me, I believe is because I have the gift of gab. And when I say that, that means like I'm in sales. I was in sales. All I had to, baby, they didn't care who I was, what I was, how I did it. As long as I kept putting money on that board, that's all that they wanted. And once I was able to start working somewhere, that was the thing that started. Whenever I got on that phone and I started doing fundraising, for D.
Okay.
Austin over at Sales Associates, Service Associates. Did fundraising there. And the first week, a gentleman by the name of Arnold was my manager. And for the first week, they kept sitting there telling Arnold, you need to fire that girl. She sounded a mess on that phone. And Arnold kept sitting there telling me, Dee Dee, you're going to get this. You're going to get this. You're going to get this.
Mhm.
And that following week, within 2 weeks after that, by the time I was at my third week, I made history there. In their 10 years of operations, I had the most, I raised the most funds and with the fewest amount of phone calls. So like that was a big thing
Hmm.
for me, right? That was a big thing for me. But the reality is that one, that call center was a trans-owned call center.
Okay.
Two, the people that were there were still messy, extremely,
Mm.
because it was a call center. The benefit was that it was old people. It was older folk, and
Mm.
even though I'm gonna be transparent, I still was ignorant then. I had to go and lean over a little old lady's shoulder till I would drag her old blank down them stairs and we will get the business in the parking lot. It's sad that you have to do that, but after
Mhm.
doing that, she didn't say anything negative to me. She was really nice, but just the same as whenever we say anything to anybody, sometimes it comes off that type of a way. The thing was this: whenever I left there and I went to work at AT&T and Verizon,
Mhm.
because I was really good in sales, I was still able to get those jobs, right? I
Okay.
had to
Yeah.
do 3 times better as my peers, because as they talked about me, as they said certain things, as they did certain things, if it wasn't for
Mhm.
me doing 3 times better than them, they wouldn't have cared. But the mere fact that I was beating everybody on the board, that
Mhm.
made me important. That made me matter. And they didn't care about the fact that, oh, well, Dee Dee's trans, we need to respect that. No, Dee Dee bringing in this money. So y'all need to make
Mhm.
sure it's not. But Dee Dee will get you fired, and Dee Dee will train somebody to take your place. Trust me.
Oh
And
wow.
that's how I had to start being. And it was so sad because even now, as I look back, that was an aggression that was there, if that makes sense. But all
Mhm.
of that to say that I wound up being able to get a job in a call center. I went to multiple interviews. I went to hundreds of interviews, just to be totally honest with you, to the point to where I just would ride the bus and get off the bus and just walk to each business and going in asking about if they were hiring. That's how we had to do it back then. Now you
Mhm.
can do
Yeah.
stuff online, but back then we had to go into places. And so that was a really complicated thing.
Okay. So, but when did you? Because you finally get into. Are you still working for Verizon?
Mm-mm. No, I'm an entrepreneur, honey. I own my own.
Oh wow. Oh, okay. All right. And do you? So it's your own call center?
So I own a 24-hour answering service. We're answering service and a virtual assistant service. Right now I'm keeping it low key because I'm bringing in more operators. So I
Okay.
am at a place to where now I'm bringing in more operators and more virtual assistants. So by next week, Wednesday, we'll be pushing out for marketing and getting more clients.
Okay.
So
Well,
I
definitely.
own.
Well, if you don't mind sharing with us, because maybe there are some potential
Mhm,
clients here, you can
mhm,
put your information or the information where they can apply, or at least get you as a client and say they need a virtual assistant for their
mhm.
business. So can you can put that in the private chat and I can give it to the rest of, because we definitely want to support you. We always ask my people in the chat for those I interview on the show.
Mm-hmm. So no, that's totally fine. What I'll do is I'm going to send it to you on Facebook because my
Okay.
phone is up there and it'll be too complicated to do all of that,
Okay,
nails
that's
and
fine.
stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, so I own the answering service, which is also a virtual assistant service, and I am the COO of a creative marketing firm, which is trans owned and trans operated, which would be with my colleague Nine Lamb as well as myself. So we that's really where a lot of my time and my work goes into is Concept Kit, as well as we also have Kinship Care, which is a company where we decided that we wanted to help people when it comes down to insurance. And what does that look
Oh,
like for
okay.
health insurance, life insurance, and with emphasis on the trans community. But at the end of the day, we got into this because of how I do things. I believe that it's always important that we are able to be a part of a lot of the things of which we're needing. And sometimes whenever those things are unaccessible, how do we do that? How do we make that
Mm-hmm.
accessible, right? So we looked at the fact of so many trans people not being able to get their insurance and stuff situated due to the fact of them not having their names updated or their gender
Yeah.
markers situated. And so what we do is that we welcome community in and we look at things from that perspective. We look at it and we say, you know what? At the end of the day, you tell me that this is the name that you would like to be that you would like to go by, and these are your pronouns, and what we're going to do is we're going to affirm that, because that's what we're going to call you. And what, all the way up until calling to the insurance, the provider, the actual carrier,
Mm-hmm.
we're on the phone with them, we're letting them know, hey, this person is transgender, trans identified, or they live of the trans experience.
Mm-hmm.
And they use the following pronouns. If it's a person who was assigned at birth was male, we let them know that this is a person who is a male to female transgender person, and they go by this name. So if their name was Robert and now they go by Ramona, this is Ramona. And
Okay.
are you okay with taking this type of a call? And the reason why that's important is because if they're not okay with taking that type of a call, it's totally fine. Just transfer me to someone else.
Yeah.
But it's about doing those types of things because we have to also protect our people, and that's the way that we do it. So making sure that people like yourself or anyone who may
Mm-hmm.
have questions about like Medicare, what does that look like, being able to answer those questions, because a lot of times we have not because we ask not. And within that, we try to make ourselves available so that people can ask the questions that are important to them, and so that we can help them to navigate through it. The benefit is it's not a 7 day a week type of thing. We are available 7 days a week, but the bulk of that type of work comes at one time of the year, which is during open enrollment.
Open enrollment. Okay. Let me ask a question. You just mentioned something. How did you choose Dee Dee Waters?
How
And
did I choose Dee Dee Waters?
how did you choose your name?
Okay, so you're horrible for that question,
I
but
am
it's
so
okay.
sorry.
No. So it's okay for me. It is absolutely okay for me. I
Okay.
think that it'll be okay for a lot of people. I think that when we talk about names and stuff, it becomes like this really fine line,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, but I'm okay with it because I like to be transparent.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I wind up. I used to go by Diamond. And the reason why I went by Diamond, at first I went by Tamika or something like that. I don't even remember what I went by. That was so long ago. But as far back as I can remember, I started going by Diamond. And I was so excited whenever I seen Diamond in the Players Club. So I was really crunked in, baby. You had Lisa Ray as Diamond. My name was Diamond, baby. I was sitting there thinking I was just as fine. I was a little bit lighter skinned, wasn't fishing as much in the sun. So it was cute.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, I told you about that job at Service Associates with D. Austin. And so I go walking in. I thought I was super duper cute. I went in, and again, this is being mindful that I was forced into homelessness. I had started my transition. When I started my transition, I wasn't like yourself, who had the opportunity to learn how to be a girl or how to,
Mm-hmm.
live life as a woman or be trained on any of those things. And so I had to just jump straight in. And so I went up there. I had on some. I thought that I was professional. I had on some nice little pants. I had on a really cute shirt that had like this rhinestone belt. My hair was down to my butt. My earrings was big. I had my lashes on. I was feeling it. My nails was long. So like I was feeling it. And she told me, she says, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and give you the job because I think that you deserve it. And I was like, oh, okay, thank you so much. And she was like, okay, so what name is it that you're going to be, going by? So that way we can make sure that people address you correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, my name Diamond. And she looks at me and she said, Diamond? And I was like, yes, Diamond. And she was like, so we is not supposed to be in here catching no stripper poles. How about we go with Dee Dee? And I was like,
Okay.
I can go with Dee Dee. And so that was that moment where I transitioned again and transitioned into a person who was working. You get what I'm
Oh,
saying?
okay.
And so
Yeah.
we forget that when we talk about transitioning, that we don't think about the fact that you transition from smoking to not smoking, from drinking to
Yeah.
not drinking. So there's a lot of times that we transition in life, and I think that it's even easier when we look at it from that standpoint to be able to understand trans people, because everyone transitions. It just depends
Hmm.
on how you're looking at it. Some of us transition through gender, and some of us transition through our day-to-day things that we do in our lives.
Oh, okay. So I have one more question related to that question. So I hope this is not
Mm-hmm.
offensive.
Mm-hmm.
Were you able to then change that on your other forms of identification? Because I know you said it's hard when because you're trying to help people get their insurance and you have to navigate and let the people know like, hey, this person wants to be called this. But what about, you know, birth
So as
certificate, ID, driver's license, social security card? I remember a really vivid incident one time. I was in Fiesta with my aunt and my uh and my mom, and there was a transgender woman who was paying with a check. This was like back in the like 90s.
mm-hmm,
And but her name and what was on the ID was totally different. And
mm-hmm.
so they had to go get a manager, and it ended up being like they ended up basically cursing each other out. It got, and I'm just thinking to myself, all that really wasn't necessary. Why didn't the man just take not man. I mean, when I say man, I'm talking about the manager. Why didn't the
Mm-hmm.
manager take her ID? It's and I'm just trying to figure
So
out. Yeah.
So for me, my legal name is Dacia. Dacia D. Antoinette Waters. So that's my
Hmm.
legal name. That's my
Hmm.
government name. I was able to get my name changed probably about maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Again,
Hmm.
remember, the benefit for me is that I was in sales. So because of me being in sales, I was going to be able to get any and everything that I wanted as long as I put stuff on the board. So
Hmm.
when I worked at AT&T, everything was Dee Dee Waters. When I worked at Verizon, everything was Dee Dee Waters,
Hmm.
because I was extremely clear on. I was extremely well. Thank you. I was extremely clear on if I'm disrespected, I'm leaving. Like I was
Hmm.
extremely clear on that, and I was
Hmm.
also extremely clear on calling people out and holding them to everything that they told me
Hmm.
that I would be able that they would do to protect me as long as I got the sales. So I stuck to doing that. And when it comes down to getting the name changes, if anyone is watching this and you know someone who needs to see if I get their name changed, please, 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 please reach out to me. Especially if they're in the state of Texas, we could definitely help them with
Hmm.
that. Totally not a problem.
Okay, that's
It's
great.
a lot easier process as we've been fighting and going down and pushing for certain things. So it's an easier process now, but whenever I was when I started my journey in transitioning, it was nowhere near that. It was nowhere near this.
Hmm.
I mean, even and it's so crazy because if I go 2 hours, almost nearly 3 hours away from here. What 2 hours? We'll stick with 2 hours. If I go 2 hours away from here into Austin, I can get my name changed, my birth certificate updated, my social security done, in a matter of the day.
Wow.
Here in Harris County, the setup is a whole lot different.
Oh, okay.
The process is a lot different. So I tell people that whenever they come in, how soon are you looking to do these things? How important is this to you? Are you okay with the wait for 30, 60, 90 days, or are you looking to get this done like within the next week? And that helps
Oh,
me to be
okay.
able to figure that out. So you all are more than welcome to reach out to me to see about getting that documentation, and for me to be able to even try to assist you with completing it and things of that nature.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. And it's
Of
Dee Dee, for
course.
everyone watching, it's Dee Dee Waters. I got this on the screen on Facebook. Okay.
Yes. And if you're looking to find me or like follow me on any of the platforms, you can also find me at I'm Dee Dee Waters. So IMDEEDEEWATTERS. And that's on everything: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
What was the Instagram again?
It's all the same. IMDEEDEEWATTERS. All one word, like all spelled out lowercase. So it's I'm Dee Dee Waters. And my website is DeeDeeWaters.com.
Okay.
And I'm sending you the email address for just in case anyone wants to see about getting signed up for the answering service or the virtual assistant services.
Mhm.
If they do want to do that, they can definitely reach out to me. And if they reach out to me and say that they seen on the show, they see me on your show. One, we already have a free 30-minute trial. The second option would be that not only that they can get that free 30-minute trial, but we'll also take off 10% for their first 2 months, just because
Oh,
they've seen
okay.
us on this show. So, I'm getting ready to send you my email now, so that way, just in case if someone's interested, and then
Okay.
also I have the website down getting maintenance right now because I want to wait until I have the other people on and then start really, really pushing it. But if people want to see about getting services as early as now, they can still get the services now. We definitely can handle it.
Mhm.
It's just I'm also bringing in more operators and more assistants and training them, and we'll be
Okay.
done with the training by Monday. So I have enough people to still take people. So if you all are interested, please reach out.
Okay.
If not, that's okay too, because I think that that's absolutely fair. You know.
Okay. And you said the website was it ddwaters.com or is it imddwaters.com?
So my website is ddwaters.com.
Okay. I
And
wrote the
instead of the
wrong.
I am, it's I am. So it's I am, no A. So it's I'm. I'm Dee Dee. I'm Dee Dee Watters.
Oh, okay. You said on
Something happened. I can't hear you. I can't hear you now. Say that again.
oh, I was gonna say it's on you said that is on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitter.
That's Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. So all of the social media platforms is I am Dee Dee Watters. Just drop the A. So no A needed.
Okay.
And I also sent you the and if people are interested, I can tell you also that the site is takemycallsvas.com is the website for the answering service and virtual assistant services.
Okay.
But it's
Take.
take my calls, plural.
Okay.
V like Victor, A like Apple, S like Sam, which stands for virtual assistant and answering services.com. So it'll be www.takemycallsvas.com.
Okay. Let me make sure I got it. www.takemycalls virtual assistant.
Yeah, so it's just VAS. Not it's not spelled out. So it's
Oh.
take my calls VAS.com.
And you said the other website was down, but it'll be back up next Wednesday.
Yeah, so they're all so my personal site, ddwaters.com, that's up. That's available. The Take My Calls VAS, which is the virtual assistant and answering services website, it's just in maintenance mode as they're preparing the site. So they're rebuilding the site to make it connected to like the CRM and giving people all these different capabilities and stuff. So that's how that one is.
Okay. Make sure I got this. So I'm also gonna put this in the description of the video once it uploads so that everyone
Mm-hmm.
is as well. Is this right, Dee Dee?
Dee Dee Watters. I'm Dee Dee Watters. Yep. Website takemycallsvas.com and ddwaters.com. Thank you. You did
Oh,
good. Thank
okay.
you very much.
Okay,
Good
you're
work.
very welcome. Legit doctor said, is this only for Texas?
And what is
The
that?
the virtual assistant job legit?
No, we are actually. If the question is where is that at? We are actually all over the world. So we offer our services
Oh,
all over
okay.
the world. We even offer international services as well, and we actually offer one of the best rates for international calling also. And I think like
Mm.
32 other countries. I don't know. I would have to look at that to make sure, but we definitely can reach a lot of people, and our services are everywhere.
Okay, that's awesome. So you're looking for
Yeah.
workers and you're looking for clients.
Yes, both.
Oh, I mean employees and clients. Okay. Does everyone
Hmm.
get that? She's looking for employees and clients. So if you have a
And
business
if you,
want to take the calls for you, you know.
yes. And also we bill we bill at around about 89 cents a minute, 89, 87 cents a minute. The benefit is that we do our billing in 6-second increments. So therefore, instead of you just running it like a minute, a lot of times people don't understand how fast a call can be over, and how
Mhm.
long a call can take. It just depends on the way that it's set up. So I have clients that come in and they thought that they would use, like, 500 minutes, and they literally use about 120 minutes a month,
Mhm.
because of the way that we sit down and worked everything out for their actual campaign.
Okay. All right. Well, if you don't mind, I'm going to open up the questions from those in the chat. I told them to give me time to ask you some questions. But before I get to the people in the chat, is there anything else you want us to know? Oh, I forgot to ask you one very important
Go
thing.
ahead. No, you can
I'm
ask me
so sorry. I can't
whatever.
believe I forgot this.
Well, don't be
Okay.
worried about me. You need to apologize to them in the chat room, honey. I'm
I'm
here.
so
So.
sorry y'all in the chat. You're like, oh, we finally get to ask questions. Okay. I wanted to talk to you about your activism. I
Hmm.
know actually I was supposed to interview you 2 weeks ago, but you were actually dealing with the death of another well, I think several black trans women.
Oh,
So can you
excuse me.
tell
Hmm.
and I was trying to talk to my friends about it. I was like, in the African American community, black trans women have a very much high mortality rate. I said a lot of them don't reach past the age of 35 or get to the age of 40. And I was trying to make them understand, but it's just me, cisgendered me, trying to make them understand. So I was just like, can you make them understand uh, why this is important? How many black trans or just trans people in general have been murdered this year? And
Okay. So okay. So let's okay. So let me chop that up. So the first part is going to be what it is that I do as far as like my advocacy and
mhm,
activism. So
yes.
a lot of times people get this thing mistaken that because I'm a black trans woman that my only focus is on trans people, like black trans people,
Mhm,
which is absolutely incorrect.
mhm,
I am a humanist. I believe that all human beings have the rights to equal rights. Sadly, I'm also a realist, and I understand that me as a black person, I don't have those same equal rights, right?
mhm,
Then when you step back and I look at it again, I don't have the same equal rights as black people who ain't even got equal rights. So realistically,
mhm.
I ain't got. Let me make sure we keep it classy because I want to make sure I don't curse. But when you look at it from
Okay.
those perspectives, you have to really be realistic on where it is that I'm coming from. So that's just like the first part to that. So within my work, I've had so many experiences where I've dealt with death, where I've dealt with trans people being attacked, and it's something that I can deal with. I believe that God has blessed me with the ability to be able to be there and to understand and to
Mhm,
be able to like be there and take up space in that type of an environment.
mhm,
So a lot of times whenever trans people are murdered, I do a moment of silence and I light a candle and we say their names. The reason why this is important is because we're saying their names because while they were living, they lived and identified as a certain person. They identified as a certain
mhm,
being, and that is worthy. Like that is worthy. And so when you look at it, a lot of times what happens is that when these trans people are murdered, when we're murdered or attacked or anything, people misgender us.
mhm,
Not only do they misgender us, they also use the wrong names. And so, whenever they're using the wrong names, this is a person who was murdered. They didn't go to sleep and die. They didn't run across the street and get hit by a car. They were
mhm,
literally murdered. So their life was taken, snatched away from them, right? And went by another person, by another being, right? And so when that
mhm,
happens, there's this issue of like what the energy is like in that space, right? Or at that moment. And so for me, one of my things is that we're going to say their names because when they were here and present, we were able to say their names because they made sure that it was said. Does that make
yes,
sense?
that's
And since
right.
they have been taken and they have been murdered, how about, baby, guess what? Whenever I do my memorial services, when I do these vigils, it's not for the family. I'm sorry for the family's loss. It's not for the loved ones.
Mhm,
I'm sorry for the loved ones' loss. It's for community and it's for the individual. So therefore,
Mhm.
don't no family get to speak because it ain't about you. You're gonna have the funeral and you ain't gonna even invite me or my people. So guess what?
Mhm.
That's fine. That's totally do your thing. But when we do it, we're gonna do it this type of a way. And we're gonna say their name, whatever name it was that they went by. And we're gonna
Mhm.
take up space and we're gonna have a moment of silence and we're gonna remember them for who they were and how they identified and how they existed on this earth. Lastly, when we sit here, first and foremost, so I want to talk to Black women right now, like on some Black women, Black femme. If you don't identify as she and her, then and you identify as they and them, but you are a feminine being, I want to say something to you. I want to make something extremely clear to you that just because I'm screaming out that Black trans lives matters and that my trans life matters, it's not taking anything away from you, dear. What it's
Mhm.
doing is that it's amplifying the fact that we are not being murdered by white men all the time. We're not being murdered by Asian men all the time. We're being murdered by Black men. And if you really
Oh,
look at this, our Black bodies, especially Black women, Black femme beings, we are victims of domestic violence so often, and we don't even say anything about it.
yeah.
And so this is important because we have to keep up with the numbers of Black trans women that are being murdered because media ain't doing it. You know, not only that, but when we sit there and we talk about the fact of us being murdered, we are not being murdered by some random individual a lot of times.
Mhm.
Like over 70% of the cases that are out there are from people who were actually like involved with the trans person of which they murdered.
Wow.
So I hope that that answered your question in a long-winded way. You know, I was trying
Okay.
to make sure I
Yeah.
got through for the people got in the chat box and started getting real mad. So,
Okay.
you know.
Also,
But thank you all.
before we go to the question, we don't get to the question, y'all. Problem. How many have? I know you told me when I sent you that list, you were like, "Is this year's list?" And I did, and I had to go back and you sent me the names. How many have been murdered so far that reported? Because there's still an unreported
Right,
number.
right. So, as far as reports are concerned, we are somewhere in between 21 and 23. And so the reason why I say that is because we still have, so my number shows as 22.
Mm,
Monica Roberts' number shows as 21, and I go based upon what Monica Roberts says. That's the reason why I
okay.
have her doing what it is that she does. But then
Okay.
I also look at the fact that I know that there's another young lady who we didn't count in Louisiana, I believe, also in Baton Rouge.
Mhm.
That because there were two murders that took place, but there was one that also took place beforehand. They just couldn't give me the information, and so when we're
Oh,
not
okay.
provided certain information, we're unable to put that on there. So
Mm,
if it's not deemed or justified as a murder, right? Like this person was trans and they were murdered because
mhm.
they're trans, then we're unable to count that. And the reason why is because
Oops.
statistically speaking, we have to do certain things. We have to do this a certain type of a way because when we're going to um, when we're going to politicians and saying or lawmakers, right, and saying that we need certain laws on the books and we need certain things to happen, it's a whole lot harder whenever we're just giving them numbers of a bunch of random people that died, committed suicide, you know, or whatever the case is. So when we're doing these numbers and we're coming up with these numbers, we're looking at it from the fact of like this was based upon a homicide. So like whenever I was telling you about like Tony
Mhm.
McDade, yes, of course we did say his name, but we said his name because he was a black trans man
Mhm.
who was shot and killed by the police and he was unarmed. So
Mhm.
we didn't say his name because he was murdered by someone because he was trans. We said his name because he was shot and killed by the police.
Okay. I wanted to show everyone something. Um, Hold on. I might have to show them a different way. Because you told me to make sure that I show everyone the. Let me see if I can find it.
Oh, you're saying the
The
names of
the
everyone.
number of women. I mean, trans women or trans men who have died this year.
Been
This
murdered
is
this
only. I
year.
mean, sorry, murdered this year.
Right. And so I want to
Uh.
say something to that too. So I want for us to, if so, when we're trying to do this type of work and have these types of
Mhm.
conversations, I want us to be conscious of the fact that people do also identify as transgender, and they're not in the binary. So we do have some trans people that identify as they and them. So when we talk
Mm-hmm.
about, like, hey, let's bring up trans people that have been murdered, instead of like just saying trans men and trans women, we say trans folks or trans people, because it
Mm-hmm.
just makes it a little bit more complicated, especially whenever you're looking at the fact that some people don't identify as, male and or female. Child, trust me, I don't get it 100%, but hey,
Okay.
I'm gonna respect people because they're gonna respect me,
Mm-hmm. And
and it's just easy.
okay, these are the list of trans uh gender people who were murdered so far this year. Mind you, these are the reported cases.
Right.
Um, and this is only today is only July 14th.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when I counted this was 19, but like you just told me there's two more to add to
Mm-hmm.
this list. So, um, and I think you told me, even though the majority are of black trans women, I think you said
Mm-hmm.
Dustin was a white trans
Dustin is
man,
uh-huh.
and you said
Yep, is
Tony
a
was
trans
a
masculine person,
yeah, and
black trans man.
black trans man. So
Mm-hmm.
y'all have to think about it. This is just July. We got 5 more months. What was the number last year?
I think last year's number was 24 or something like that, and we're
Oh,
already
okay.
almost at that in the
Oh, wow.
middle of the year. And like, just be mindful of like what it is that's taking place right now. Like, we're living during a pandemic, and
Mhm.
having to be in one place for like right now is one thing. And if you're in a relationship with someone and this relationship is closeted and there's like domestic violence that winds up taking place there,
Mhm.
like, just imagine how that looks at a time like now,
Mhm.
you know. So it's a little deep. It's a little deep, and I hope that people take the urgency to heart in
Mhm.
what's going on, because I have a quote, and my quote is I am she and she was me. And what that means to me is that
Mhm.
anything that can happen to me can happen to you. And it's so sad, because whenever you sit there and you really think about it, people be like, oh, that wouldn't happen to me. Well, you know what? How about God done blessed you, baby? Because it ain't gonna happen to you. But guess what you're gonna have? You're gonna have a child. You're gonna have a cousin. You're
Yeah.
gonna have a sister, a brother, a sibling. Your child may have a child. You have to understand that
And for
this will
me, I have
happen.
students. You know.
You see, and students, people that you love, people that you are around, and just to see that somebody can murder little old me and it
Mhm.
not be anything said, then how does that look? See, understand something. The reason why we have to raise our voices so loud to sit there and say that Black trans lives matter, and acknowledge the fact that we're being murdered is the truth. If you really want to get down to the nitty gritty, the truth
Mhm.
is because when it comes down to Black cisgender women, where are Black cisgender women at when it comes down to them being murdered and screaming
Yeah.
out something about it? And so, just because other Black cisgender women decided not to take up space and tell people about what's going on in our Black community, because we feel like it's only important to spotlight that a white cop shot me, or a white or Asian cop shot me, or a cop put their knee in my back. And I
Mhm.
get all of that. I totally get all of that. But these are also the facts. Me as a Black trans woman, whenever I walk into a room or walk into a space, I'm not concerned on whether or not if the police are there or not. If the police are there, I'm going to get closer to where the police are, because if it's a group of Black people, I have to be concerned on whether or not I may be attacked. And it's sad to say that, but that is my
Mhm.
lived experience. I've been a victim
Mhm.
of police brutality. I've been a victim of police attacking me for not doing anything. But I've also been a victim of Black people attacking me, Black men, Black women, Black
Mhm.
bodies. You know what I'm saying? Black police officers, you know? And
Mhm.
so I'm not trying to say anything negative. What I'm saying is that these are conversations that we have to have if we look forward to a Black community coming back together and
Okay.
being able to thrive the way that we thrived at one point in time in our minds, at least.
Okay. Dee Dee, I was gonna ask you, do you have a lamp? Cause I'm,
Child, wait a minute. Let me get up.
cause
I got you.
I'm not seeing you.
No, I'm here.
Okay.
Yep, I'm here. I just didn't feel
All
like
right.
getting up when you were saying it,
Oh,
when we was
okay.
talking.
I want everyone to still see your beautiful face. So,
Oh, thank you.
welcome. Um, I wanted to add. Okay, I know I'm going to. This is a really important question. I need to answer this chat. What are some resources that we can that we need to know to help people, or to let's say we have a transgender cousin, brother, sister, student. Where can they go? Uh, well, you can just say Houston or in Texas, but where can they go in online to get help?
Okay, so I'm sure that if any of my colleagues are watching this, that I'm probably going to make some of them upset because I'm going to forget their organization and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So if you all are looking, you can comment that yourself, please. Thank you very much for
Mhm.
that. But so first and foremost, I serve as Madam Chair on the board for Black Trans Women Inc. So I would definitely say that you can go to, if it's a person who is Black and trans or getting ready to transition, whatever the case may be, you can definitely go to blacktrans.org, which is blacktrans.org. If you are, and that's just like if you just want to be able to be around other Black trans people, if you want to see people that look like you, that experience the same way that you have experienced, then you can definitely go there. A really, really good resource for trans people would be TENT. That's the Transgender Education Network of Texas. Is a really good one as well. And one that is like full of resources is Gender Infinity. Gender
Mhm.
Infinity is a really, 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 really good resource for parents who are trying to find out more things about their child, especially whenever their child is transitioning. It's a really, really good resource for that. They do a conference every year. Their conference is getting ready to come up, I believe, in November, October, or November this
Okay.
year. The Gender Infinity is again really, really good. They have a lot of resources on how you can access those resources. They also have spaces for parents to be able to come in and have conversations. What I would like to see is a space where Black parents,
Mm.
and brown parents are able to come together and be able to have those conversations, because you have Black and brown trans people that are transitioning at early ages now. And we need to stop this whole thing to where when you transition from male to female or female to male, or just to the even to just to transition period, like even if you're not in the
Mhm.
binary, we need to stop it from after you transition, then you transition from out of home to the streets, or out of
Mhm.
home
Yeah.
to a shelter, or like I feel
Mhm.
like we say so often about how much we love our kids and love the children and stuff like that, but whenever it's things like this, we have to put them out. And I think that that's a really, really problematic situation. And I think that we have to have these conversations, and I wish that we can create a space like that for Black and brown parents, which they do affirm and welcome Black and brown parents in all of these organizations, even the parent stuff,
Mhm.
but the majority is white.
Okay. Yeah. Is this the correct
Excuse me.
names? Gender
Black
Infinity.
Trans Inc. So 10 and then Gender Infinity, yes.
Okay. And I'll put those in the description as well. Okay. But I wanted to just let people know that there are some resources or some places that they can get
Mm-hmm.
some help. Okay. Now on to the question in the chat.
Let me
You
take a
ready?
sip. Hold on, let me take this sip. I should have made that
Daryl, you
glass a
still
whole lot
there?
bigger.
Okay. I did see one question up here that someone asked. I can't find it now. Uh, where is it? Where is it? Okay, now I can't see it. I think someone had
So,
asked in the chat, can you explain the different types of uh I guess trans identification, transgender, because I think you start saying non-binary and binary. I know what it is,
right.
but they probably don't know what it means.
Right. So whenever we're talking about, so when we talk about binary, that's like the norm, right? Like the binary is like you either male or you're female.
Mhm.
When we talk about non-binary, non-binary means that you're neither male nor female. When that part comes into place, we start using these things that's called pronouns. And the reason why pronouns are important is because it helps people with self-identifying and identifying how someone self-identifies, which realistically, overall, is just an easier way for you to be able to respect me. So instead of me telling you, you're going to call me she, it's a lot easier for me to say, hey, my pronouns are she, her, and hers. And it means the exact same thing. Because if you say he, I'm going to come at you again. And I'm going to say my pronouns are she, her, and hers. Now, that means you've been forewarned twice. So that third time I get the right to go off. But it's it's an easier way to be able to have that conversation. And then not only that, but when you think about it from our past experiences, a lot of times we walk up to somebody and be like, so what you want me to call you? Instead of doing it that way, we can walk up to them and be like, so what's your pronouns? So a lot of times whenever I meet people, I literally, to be honest with you, I started to do you like that, but I had already heard you talking to the people. So if you look at, I don't know if you all can see my actual screen, but as you see on my screen, it has my first and my last name, and then it has in parentheses, she/her. And the reason why that's important is because those are my pronouns. And I try to make that something that I do each and every time when I'm interacting with new people, even if I know that you're a person who identifies as she and her, or he and him, I'm still going to ask because I want to make sure that I respect you wholly for who you are and how you self-identify.
Okay. All right. Someone asked a really good question about this is the question I was on. You explained it. And someone asked, I don't get why the person is murdered, and she's wondering if there are men living in the closet.
So, unfortunately, I cannot answer for all of the people that are murdering folk, but I can tell you based upon what the statistics and the shows and the stories show. So, a lot of times, these are men. Men who, for whatever reason, or I want to make sure that I answer this like the right way with it making sense. So like short and simple. Okay, so short and simple, we can say yes, right? So like we can say yes. We can say that these are men that are closeted or men that are DL. I can give you prime examples. There was a young lady, I just forgot her name. A young lady that was murdered in Dallas here recently. That was one of the people that, and that is so crazy because what you were talking about, I totally forgot when you were like, yeah, like 2 weeks ago, and like you were just overwhelmed with stuff. I'm like, what are you talking about? But you're absolutely right. That was when I was in Arkansas. I went to Little Rock, Arkansas for the 17-year-old. There was a 17-year-old black trans girl that was murdered there out in Arkansas. They found the person who murdered her. They have a person of interest in custody right now. But the one that I was talking about was in I think her name was something Mac. But at any rate, she was in
Was it Brand?
No, it was it Misha? I don't want to mess it up. Mercy. It
Yeah,
was Mercy. Thank
Mercy.
you. Mercy Mac. So Mercy Mac was out of Dallas, and Mercy Mac was murdered about a week ago or so, I believe, maybe a little longer. And the person who murdered Mercy was upset because Mercy sit there and had like a fans only or some type of something and was like, hey, y'all check out my new videos. I got new videos coming soon. And so what it was that, and this is what the alleged story is that she was getting ready to post those videos and the individual who was in those videos was not for those videos being posted.
Okay.
And so therefore he murdered her. There's been multiple situations like that, even here in Texas. Also predominantly in Texas, where like you have the individual who's a star football player getting ready to go to college, and he's messing with this trans girl. They've been talking for a long time now, and she's like, I'm ready to do something different. I'm ready to be seen with you. I'm ready for people to know. And he murdered her also. So like that happens a lot. That happens quite often.
Okay. This is related to that question. When they cast a murderer, do they serve time?
That is a very good question. So let's answer that. So it just depends. A lot of times because they have this thing that's called the trans panic defense, and then also because you have people that are very transphobic, you'll wind up saying that a lot of times whenever the people who are involved in these murders are caught, they don't do the time of which they should. Watch this. But see, look, let me tell you something. See, y'all should be so glad that I can't curse because I would have said a lot of stuff right now. But let me tell you this. No, see, so but watch
If
this.
you
I
feel
really want for
welcome,
people
you
to
gotta.
get this.
It has to come out. We trust me. There's some cussing Christians in this chat right
So
now.
let me say this. I want to make something extremely clear to you all. I want for you to really, really think and dig deep in your mind and in your heart, right? And I really want you to understand that when we talk about Black trans women that are being murdered, I want us to again go back to the murders that take place against Black women, Black cis
Mhm,
women, right? How many of those people are being charged? How many of them are
mhm,
doing time? I want you to understand that the same thing that they're doing to little old trans me is the same thing that they're doing to little old you. See, they go out and they don't want to prosecute the men whenever they take us out a lot of times. But whenever the men are just out and about and doing whatever the case may be, living their lives and not even breaking the law, they want to take them out then and deem it as justifiable.
mhm,
Whenever someone murders a person, murder is against the law.
mhm.
Murder is against the law. There's not a such thing as justifiable murder. It's murder. When you murder somebody, you can't justify murder.
Yeah.
So just be mindful of that. So like generally, a lot of times, there was a young man with involved with the assault against Malaysia Booker, the man who led that assault. Upon
Oh,
leading that assault,
keep going. I'm sorry.
upon leading that assault, this young man barely served. I think like probably 3 or 4 months, maybe not even that long, probably about a month or so in jail after the way that he beat that girl. And there were other people that were involved in the beating, and it was
Mhm.
recorded.
Yeah, the Malaysia Booker for y'all.
Oh yeah, Malaysia Booker. She was
Out
a
of
black
Dallas
trans
last year was
girl out of
actually
Dallas.
filmed getting beaten
Mm-hmm.
after a traffic accident and
A minor fender bender.
minor fender bender and literally was looked like it was she was getting stomped to death and I think she passed out and then a group of women like kind of like
Yep. Got around her
drug
and
her
kind of like
away and got her help. But yeah,
after she had got jumped on. But we
after
still
she got
appreciative that they did because she
yeah.
could have been murdered then.
hmm what was the other question? Um, where is it? Oh, I think someone asked about. Don't know if you, well, it's up to you about your mother.
Yeah, it's not. Oh, uh, you know that you're so beautiful and successful. Okay, so thank you very much for that. So, no, my mother is deceased. She passed away January the 31st of 2018. Um,
Sorry for your loss.
Before, oh, thank you, baby. Hey, my loss, but heaven's gain. So I go with it. But thank you for that. So, my mother and I, we became really good. Probably again about maybe like 7 or 8 years ago. Um, we were great. Probably, well, I guess 7 or 8 years ago would have been about 10 years ago when she died. So back in about 2000 and maybe 12, 13, we started back getting better. We got better
Mhm.
then. And probably in about 2016, 2015, 2016, we started to become best friends again. My mother was my best friend when I was growing up. And so that was the thing. And my mother, even though we started to become best friends, there was still things that like, and to see someone sit there and say that, to see that my mother would have been able to see me as my beautiful self and to see me as successful, I really appreciate that. Because one of the things that I yearned for, that I earned for, with my mother was to be able to hear her tell me that she was proud of me. I'm a black
Mhm.
trans woman who has made history. There are
Mhm.
people who say my name that you would be amazed at the fact
Mhm.
of them even knowing who I am and that I exist. I'm the first black trans woman to do a keynote speech at a graduation at Sam Houston State University.
Oh,
And
okay.
I'm the first black trans woman to speak at the March for Black Women in Houston.
Mhm.
I've shared the stage with people like Cecilia King, and shared the stage with oh, I forgot her name. Oops. But anyway, I've been around and
And
been in
wasn't you
spaces
on
with amazing
Dateline?
people. I was on Nightline. I've been
Nightline.
on HBO. I've been on um, ABC. I've been on TLC. So I've done a lot
Okay.
of amazing things, and like I've made history multiple times. And I never forget, me and my mother, we were on the phone the day before she died. We were on the phone, and we was on the phone. We was drinking, and we just was having a good old time. And we talked about the fact of me getting ready to make history, as in doing the things with the march. Now, mind you, I made a lot of history before my mother died, and
Mhm.
she never would tell me that she was proud of me. I would tell her I did this, and oh, mom, I did this, and did that, and did this, and
Mhm.
oh, well, your sister just did this, or your brother went and did this. Child, you heard about that. So
Mhm.
I really want to say to the person who posed that question that I really, really appreciate you for even asking it. And I appreciate you for seeing me and acknowledging me for who I am. So thank you for that.
Okay. And here's my good friend Daryl.
Okay. So I can see in regards to activities of daily living, how do you manage with your long? Okay. So to be honest with you, so realistically to me, like my nails are not that long to me. So my longest nail would be this. Hold on, y'all. They just curl together and all this other kind of stuff. So it would be my middle finger. Oh, I just shot the finger. So it would be it's this finger. It's my middle finger. And it's my middle finger on my left hand. And so it is a little over 11 inches long. And so my sister, who is also my client, holds the Guinness World Record, and she's based out of Houston, Texas. Her shortest nail is 33 inches long. So, so
She's in
let
the
me say
Guinness
this.
Book of World Records for having the longest.
She is presently, she holds the record for the longest nails on a pair of female hands.
Okay. What is her name? We had to
Yep.
look. Was that the picture
Her
you had
name,
on your Facebook?
with me and Yanni, and she was holding her hand up like that. That wasn't even all of her nail. That was half of it.
Uh,
Yep.
oh
Yep, yep,
my.
yep, yep, yep. You all can look her up. Her name is Ayanna Williams. Ayanna Williams. Ayana. Ayanna. I think it's two N's. I don't know. However she spell her name. Love you, sister. But if y'all want to look up on Facebook,
AYANNA.
I think so. But if you want, that's if you're looking in the Guinness. If you're looking on Facebook, you can find her by looking up Yanni Williams. YANI Williams.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, go ahead.
But to answer your question, so to answer your question, how do I manage? To be really honest with you, a lot of people don't understand how we really don't use our fingernails as much and as often as we think that we do. A lot of things are done with the tips of our fingers. So now the tips of my fingers I don't really use that often. I do a lot of things with my nubs or with my knuckles rather. And to be totally honest with you, like a lot of the stuff that people think that I can't do, it's totally not a problem. Like I mean, it's really not. I've been having my nails these are only have only been growing for 5 years, but I've been growing my nails probably for like 13, 14 years now. So I've always had at least an inch or two or three or four on my nails, for the longest. This is about the longest that they've gotten, though. This is about the longest that they've gotten.
Okay.
And
So like
I mean, like
buttoning your
people,
clothes and
I mean, so watch this. So you want me to be transparent with you? I love being
oh,
transparent. Please say
go
yes.
ahead.
So thank you. So being transparent with you. So when it comes down to like, so say for instance like a button down shirt, right?
Hmm.
So when it comes down to like a button down shirt, why would I put the shirt on and try to button it all the way? I button it up before I put it on, and then put it on, and then button the last two buttons. I never said it was gonna be
Okay.
quick,
Okay.
but I still get it done. The other
Okay.
part is too, why would I wear a button down shirt and I know my nails long as hell? So I just wear a regular shirt instead of wearing a
Okay.
button. You know,
Well, so I get
people
okay.
go
I was gonna
ahead.
say so you probably buy bottled soda and not canned soda.
No, I bought canned soda.
Oh,
What
okay.
you mean? How you want to know how I open it?
Yeah, because I was thinking like you said, why would you buy a button down shirt? You know, your nails are this
That's
long. Oh, you probably do a
yeah.
bottled soda
No,
instead of a can. Oh, okay.
no. But I do a can. So say for instance, you sitting down. Generally, when you get ready to get you a canned soda, you just get ready to eat, right?
Hmm.
Usually. So
Yeah.
usually when you're eating, you're using utensils like a spoon or
Oh,
fork or
okay.
something like that,
Okay.
right? Baby, please, I picked that spoon or that fork up, bloop, pop that can right open.
Bliss
So I mean,
Beauty,
it's a lot of things that.
you are really, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Bliss Beauty, your questions, we are tactful and respectful over here. Okay.
So and so I want you to think about something. So you see the questions that they're putting in, right? So just
Mm-hmm.
imagine living with that on a day-to-day basis from certain people's perspectives. Does that make sense? And it comes from
Mm-hmm.
people who probably don't even have a pot to piss in or a window to throw a rock through. And so it's sad that people would do and say things like that, or even
Mm-hmm.
pose questions that would be any type of in a nasty way. It shows you
Mm-hmm.
a lot about who they are, and then when you go and you check them out and you see their character, you see the things that they do and the way that they portray themselves. Now watch this. People get upset whenever certain questions, when they throw certain questions out and they get certain reactions to them, they get
Mm-hmm.
upset, right? They feel like they have the right to freedom of speech. So then whenever their question gets asked and then people put them on blast for asking it, or they lose their job because of a certain thing that they did,
Mm-hmm.
then the job is wrong. But the job isn't wrong. The job didn't ask the question.
Okay. All right. Let me see. Tina asked this question. I don't know.
Oh yes, 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 yes. Tina, thank you so much for asking. So Ayana is actually doing pretty good. She just went to California. She'll be coming back soon. When she gets back, I'll be getting back with her so that we can finish and finalize the next steps on what it is that's coming forward. I will be going live on Facebook with her to kind of give
Okay.
everybody updates and let you all know what it is that's going on with her, so that way you all are aware and up to date. I
Okay.
really want to say that I ask that you all continue to understand that I am working with a victim, and I'm going to do whatever it is that that victim would like. And if it's not what a person would like or individual would like, then that's totally fine and it's totally fair. But I'm working with the victim, and I'm going to do whatever it is that person would like to do and move forward. But thank you very much for asking. I will definitely let her know that someone asked about her during my interview. Thank you so much.
Okay. What day will you be on Facebook Live? Because then I can post it on my the 18 page. We have a group page for
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
those who watch us, and I can put it in the Facebook group. Do you know what day you're gonna
Okay,
go?
so I do not know what day that's going to happen, but I can tell you this. This is exclusive information. So I can give you this. On Thursday, I will be going live with one of the family members of the young lady who was shot in the head in Chicago. And
Okay.
that'll be taking place this Thursday. So that'll be taking place Thursday around about 7 o'clock.
Okay. All right.
And
I
we're
would
going to
definitely.
be going live and kind of like telling a little bit of her story, because we can't tell too much of her story because she's still, she's
Mhm.
still in the hospital and unable to speak right now, I believe. So we're going to hear from her cousin or from one of her family members, and they'll be able to kind of give us some insight on what's going on.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay. I don't know about this question. And I think you kind of answered this, but I think Life is Late may have came in differently, but I think it's none of my business. But
Okay, so whenever we ask a question about fully transitioning, or completely transitioning, I think that we have to understand what does it mean to transition, right? So when we talk
Mhm.
about transitioning from okay, okay, so this is the educational thing. Okay, so oh, I need y'all to also know that my cup has run it empty. It's not on full, so we got to watch these questions. When it's on full, we can
Okay.
go for it. But no, it's totally fine, totally fine. So thank you very much for your question. I really appreciate it. So as it pertains to me personally, unless you're trying to get with me, I don't think that that's any of your business. But I believe in transparency. So whenever you sit there and you say that have someone transition fully, what does that, or completely, like what does that mean? So am I okay with who I am on today as far as in my transition? Totally fine with that. No issues, no complaints. Of course, I would want more. But at the end of the day, I'm still fine with where I'm at. So few things. So when a person identifies as transgender, right? When a person identifies as transgender, that means that they don't identify with the gender of which was assigned at birth, meaning that I identify as a person who is transgender. I don't identify with the gender of which was assigned at birth. Now, over here, you have transsexual. A transsexual has actually gone and modified their body or had certain operations or surgeries to be able to resemble or take place of, like, you know, what it would be looked at from within the binary, right? So within the binary, for myself, that would mean that I've gone and got like sexual reassignment surgery in order to be within the binary, right? So I have not gone and gotten sexual reassignment surgery. That's not my plan. That's not my goal. I identify as a Black transgender woman or as a Black trans woman, and the reason being is because of it's just that's where I'm at with it. Like, I identify as a Black transgender woman. Now, am I a transsexual because I now have breasts and things of that nature? You could pretty much say so. But I love the fact of being able to go against the grain, because for me, I feel like I am unique, like I'm a unique person. And with that in mind, I don't want to do a lot of the extra parts, and I don't have to be able to still identify as a woman or as a Black trans woman. But thank you for the question. It wasn't nasty. It was really, really cool. I appreciate it. It means a lot. But I definitely hope that I'm able to best educate you on your question. So when you're looking at that, and the way that you would want to ask someone would be more like, you know, hey, have you had like any, you know, any surgeries, like any sexual reassignment surgeries? And then even when you're asking that question, it's kind of a little bit much. Because one, unless you're being intimate with the person, it's really none of your business, because no one asks you what's in between your legs, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? I'm trying to think. I think you kind of answered that one. Okay. Any more questions, y'all? Any more questions, everybody? Are y'all tongue tied now? Y'all were like asking a whole bunch of questions earlier or getting mad at me. Anybody else? Like, what now?
So I have a question.
Go ahead.
No, I don't. I don't want to ask it. I don't want to ask it online. I ask it offline. I think that it's important that when we sit there and we have certain conversations, that we kind of be mindful of, like, we have eyes, right? And for those of us that can see, even those of us that can hear, we hear and see things, right? And so within knowing, like, I really don't want you to answer this question, okay? I really, really don't want you to answer this question. But I'm gonna say it because you told me to go ahead and say it. But I do not want you to answer this question. And I have reason behind it, and you'll see whenever I ask it. So, like, being mindful of those things, like we see and we hear, right? And whenever you're in a position of power, understanding what that means, right? So as a teacher, you're in a position of power, right? Because you have to remember something. So understand what that, when you're coming from the perspective of the student, you're in a position of power, right? So whenever people, right, like staff, right, or even students say something, what happens with that privilege that's there for being in a position of power, right? And when we really look at things, like, how often do we speak up on stuff that we see, right? And does that make it wrong, or does that make it okay? You get what I'm saying? So it's like, I think that my question would have been more like, when being a teacher in school, or even as a person who has a position of power, right? So that way I'm a separate them. So being a teacher in school, right? And then a person who has a position of power, meaning like they have some type of position and they have some type of power where their voice can actually like be heard. Not saying that they can go and change the president, but they can say something and someone could hear them. Do you feel that it makes it okay because you're more concerned about your job or your privilege in having that job to not say something, or should it be more okay for you to say something instead of not saying something?
Okay, I'm gonna answer.
Oh Lord.
Me personally, and my friends who are in there know, um, my classroom is a safe space for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So if
Mm-hmm.
someone is saying something that is wrong, that I believe morally is wrong, and you're making this environment not safe for everyone, I'm gonna say something about it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if it's my
Mm-hmm.
colleagues and we are in the whatever room, if it's a formal meeting, I would respectfully like say, "Hey, I don't agree with that. This is my opinion." I would let them know how I feel
Mm-hmm.
about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can't change their mind, but I want to let them know, like, "Hey, in my classroom, this is how it's going to go."
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm. The reason why I pose that question is because we sit here, and when we scream out that like Black Lives Matter, right?
hmm
We also have to be reminded that there are Black cops, right? And so when we say that Black Lives Matter, and then we know that there are Black cops, I think that it becomes like this concern of, are the cops wrong whenever they're standing there and they see something happen and they don't say anything? Like,
hmm
what does that, like what where do we put that at, and like how do we look at that from just a different perspective? So that was the only reason why I asked that question, because I feel like in each field there's a certain level of where you like have this expectation to where it's like, one of the first things that you said was that, hey, when you create in your classroom, that's a safe space. For me, I like to tell people that I've stepped up from creating safe spaces to creating safe environments, because I need everything around us to be safe. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But that is a different type of a charge. Like, that means that if somebody says something now, a lot of times we always get perceived as the angry Black woman when we speak up,
Yeah.
when we say something.
hmm
And so, also looking at it from like, the perspective of like, could your job be on the line? You get
hmm
what I'm saying? And so, like, for me, I'm going to speak up at any of those times because I don't have a job. So I'm not concerned about my job being on the line. I'm not concerned about those things. I'm not concerned about my safety, because my safety is always at risk. As you said earlier, the life expectancy of a Black trans woman or a trans woman of color is around the age of 35. And so, with that in mind, like, I'm always concerned about my life.
hmm
And, we sit there and say at the age of 35, but that doesn't mean that it stops at the age of 35.
Yeah. You're right. Any other questions you want to ask me, or does anyone else in the chat? Okay, because I'm all about safe spaces, but like you said, that's a safe environment. Someone in the chat is bothering the hell out of me, but I don't know. They might not be bothering you, but I'm bothered by the question.
So I would say that if you're bothered by the question, then it's something worth being bothered by.
Yeah.
Now,
Okay.
the question is that would I like to answer the question or not? Would
Exactly.
I
That's
like to
why I'm just like, I
entertain the
don't want.
question
You're
or
my
not?
guest, and I just want.
Right.
You say you're gonna
Now,
be
I'm going to say
transparent.
this.
Okay.
Right, because I'll be transparent. I really want to make something that's clear to you. I personally feel like you've seen the question that we had as it pertained to like transitioning completely, like,
hmm
the surgery part.
hmm
If it's more than that, then I think that that's one of those things where you have to make that decision. And because at the end of the day, after we finish talking, I believe that I know how I work with people, and when I'm talking
hmm
and like connecting and connection with energy and stuff like that. And so, if you think that after posting this question, or you telling me what this question is, that you're going to feel some kind of way afterwards, then you shouldn't pose a question. Kind of like whenever you see something happen and you know that you couldn't do nothing about it, but it was like it happened and it just like you couldn't do nothing about it, and then afterwards you're like, damn, I should have did something about that. You know what I'm saying? I would
hmm
just say no, because for me, I've heard all types of questions, and I still have the right to refuse to answer the question.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, you're the one who still has to live with it, because it's not going to be something brand new for me.
Okay.
So if that's the case and you want to move forward, then we can.
Okay. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm just over. My friends say I overthink things.
Girl, I thought it was supposed to be something else. Girl, I'm sitting there, I'm ready, girl. I'm sitting there talking about something. Look, I'm sitting there talking about the screenshot the shit out of this, honey, and somebody's just to lose their job somewhere. Okay, so that's not
And
that
that was
bad.
her same comment. Because there was another comment I had to remove. I had to remove it. I said, no, not today.
Right,
Oh.
right. So first and foremost, so excuse me. Let me see. All right, so I ain't got no toilet paper sitting out here, so I'm gonna use a towel. Okay. This here is something good, y'all. Y'all need to be paying for this. Y'all need to cash up a girl for this. Okay.
What
Y'all
is the
ready?
Cash App? I'll put it
Let
up
me.
here.
Oh, it's the dollar sign.
Mm-hmm.
DD 832. DEE 832. Oh shit. Oh, I said shit.
That's
Oops.
okay.
Sorry, y'all. Y'all know I'm classy. I had knocked the whole thing down. Okay. So let me try to get somewhere so that you all can see what I'm fixing to do. I ain't fixing to stand up and put my, all that. But anyway, so let me scoot over. So, okay. So this is, I don't think you can see me that good here. Okay. So let me see. Maybe I can do it with this arm. And I'm showing you all this because a good friend of mine is Lena, who has really long nails. She was the one that showed me. She was like, girl, just showing like this. So you know what? Okay. So looking at my arm, right? Like this part of my arm where my elbow is. You see the little fold that's there? So we're gonna act like that's a crack. Everybody got one, right? So the way that my nails go out of the way. So, you just hold the tissue and just wipe. My nails are back here, so it ain't going inside. Can you even see that? So like my nails is way back here. The tissue is right
Mm-hmm.
here. This is really simple.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I ask people is that whenever they ask me about how do I use toilet paper, how do I wipe, or any of those kind of things, I have to pose the question back to them because I don't understand why that's even a question. Because you know what I'm saying? Like it just makes me really think about people, which is a reason why a lot of times I don't eat out a lot because those questions really make me concerned. I'd be like, so what kind of stuff is you doing when you using the bathroom? Because I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And even to be more transparent, a lot of times after I do that number two, I generally like to get in the shower a lot of times. So a lot of times I take a lot of showers. That's the reason why I'm not concerned about working for anybody because I like to do things at my own pace.
Mm-hmm.
But the honest to God truth is that it's really not as complicated as people think that it
Oh,
is.
okay.
Like, I mean, my nails are just an extension of me, and I mean, I type. I probably type faster than a lot of the people that are watching this live right now. I type at around about 47 words a minute.
Oh, okay.
So I type. Oh, I types, and now I get a little lazy and I move my left hand and just let my right hand just dance across the keyboard. So, it's not that complicated.
Mm-hmm.
It really, really isn't. I have to remind folk that we as black folk, right? We as black folk, black women, a lot of times whenever we're put in situations, we have to find a way to thrive and survive. We feed families with no food in the refrigerator. We pay
Yeah.
bills with no money in the bank account. Do you hear me? So when it come down to picking up some toilet paper or eating with a damn spoon, that ain't nothing compared to what all we've been through. So we as
Mm-hmm.
black folk are overcomers. So the reason why I allow my nails to grow and be as long as they are, not only because I like them, is also because it stimulates my brain. It makes me have to think about things. Many of you all will walk up to a car door and not think of how to open it. I have to look at that car door and figure out whether or not I'm using the nub to go underneath it, whether or not I'm putting my nail through the handle. Like I have to look at all of those things so it makes
Mm-hmm.
my brain work. Again, as I said before, I am a survivor of West Nile. West Nile caused me to be paralyzed from the waist down. For a while, I lost the feeling and everything in my lower ligaments,
Mm-hmm.
and then to be able to start back walking. Right, I also have fluid on the brain, which we all have fluid on the brain. I just have an
Mm-hmm.
excessive amount of fluid. I have extra fluid on the brain that causes pressure, which forces me to forget, as well as like have short-term memory loss, as well as have really, really bad migraines. So in my mind, before I transitioned, when I was really younger, I wanted to be a brain surgeon when I got older. And so I paid a lot of attention to the brain. And so
Mm-hmm.
therefore, as I got older and I let my nails get longer and all the other kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
it just stimulates my brain to think.
Oh, okay. All right. How long does it take you to actually like do a refill or do your polish
So
and?
So I don't generally do any of that. These is my COVID-19 nails, so I had to do them because Yanni wasn't feeling that, because we was quarantining. Excuse me. So it takes 8 hours and 2 bottles of wine to get my nails done. Baby, I'll be so lit halfway through, and then by the time she done, I'm sober. So it'd be fine. I just sit there for a little bit, drink me a couple glasses of water, and it's time to go.
Are you ever gonna shorten them ever? Or are you just always gonna have them long?
So transparency is important. So
Mhm.
um I'm at a place to where a lot of times, like, I've been getting a lot of like death threats because of the work that I'm in, and
Lord
like
have
there's
mercy.
certain things that come with that, and um I again, I used to be a fighter. I used to be a fighter. I've
Mhm.
boxed. I've done all kinds of stuff, and I recently things have just looked different for me. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Having
Mhm.
to deal with these murders so much, like hands on, and like being there,
Mhm.
it got me in a place to where like I don't feel safe. I didn't feel safe before, but at least previously I used
Mhm.
to feel like I could be able to defend myself because I fought so many people and they was big people and all this other kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And probably about 2 years ago, I was in a grocery store and I went to go and grab a jug of milk. And upon grabbing that gallon of milk, it was extremely heavy. And I stopped buying groceries and bringing them in the house. Like I would have to have, people come out the house to come get the groceries and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And I started to realize and notice how I didn't have the same strength that I had 10 years ago. Didn't have the
Mhm.
same strength that I had 15 years ago when I was doing a lot of fighting. And so in my mind now, I'm at this place to where, I definitely love my nails. I would love to keep my nails, but I'm also having to be mindful of the fact that within doing this work, my safety has to be extremely important.
Mhm.
And if I cannot do this work with a clear mind, I won't be my best self, and I won't really be able to
Okay.
help people the way that I should be able to.
Yeah.
And so I believe that I'm a powerful person. I only believe that because it's the thing that I've been told. And I
Mhm.
always want to make sure that that power is able to be, let out and let out wholly and authentically. So there is a possibility that I may cut them. And that's again because I'm really concerned about my safety as
Mhm.
well as the safety of others that are around
Yeah.
me. Um, and that's just because of like the threats and the
That's mhm.
messages and stuff like that. But I definitely have been also like looking at security and making sure that when I'm going places and speaking and stuff like that, that I have security. But it's a tricky situation. My goal is to let them grow for another 10 years, but
Mhm.
that may or may
You
not
trying to
happen.
get in the Guinness Book of World Records?
I am absolutely not trying to get in the Guinness Book of
Okay.
World Records. I think she crazy as hell. She is crazy. She be baby.
How did
Her nails
how
are
did
too
she
long.
sleep? Because I saw her nails and it was like,
Baby,
because
her
I'm just
nails have a
thinking you gonna be
pillow.
on your side or your back or what, yours was, but
Right,
hers was
right,
like,
right. But check this out though. So like her nails, because hers are straighter, right? So like
mhm.
by hers being straighter, she generally has a pillow for her nails. So she either has the pillow up for her nails or she'll sleep like she's very pretty. So she'll sleep with like one hand down and like one hand up here. And so her nails will be going like as a halo. Well, not like a halo, but like a little rainbow or something over her head. And even
Mm,
now, like
wow.
now, my nails are actually going to be getting a pillow this weekend. I'm getting one
Oh, okay.
made, so my nails will be getting their own little pillow too. It
Oh,
ain't gonna, it's
that's
not gonna
cute.
last. Sure, that is not gonna last at all. but but I'm getting it because I'm trying to, I thought it would be interesting to have. But yeah, they'll be getting a pillow next week rather, this weekend
Oh,
actually.
okay. All right. I want to see what the pillow looks like.
Okay, well I'll
But
definitely
you,
send you a picture when I get
oh,
it.
okay. All
I
right.
definitely
Any
will.
more questions in the chat, y'all? Y'all have for Dee Dee? If y'all can send some love donation to Dee Dee, Cash App Dee Dee 832. And I'm
Oh,
also
that'll be
gonna
really, really
put
sweet.
her information in the description. And I believe someone has said they were already going to email you already.
Oh, that's cool. Please
Yeah.
do. Please do.
Okay.
Please do.
Is there
So,
one last? Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh no, I was just gonna say that one of the things that I really want for a lot of you all to do is that I do have a YouTube channel. If you
Oh,
could go
okay.
there and check me out on YouTube, you can even just check me out on Facebook. A lot of the stuff is also posted there. I
Mm-hmm.
think that a lot of times, because of me being a performing artist, I think that a lot of times a lot of people gain a lot from hearing me speak, and just by looking at a lot of the pieces that I do. Because it's also really, really important to like make sure that people can see things from a perspective of which they can relate to it. You know, so I definitely encourage you all to. You can go to my website, and it has my YouTube link on there. It has all of my social media stuff on there just as well. It's a very simple site for right now. Um, but you can definitely go there and check it out. I really wanted to make sure that I let you all know about the campaign that I'm doing right now, which is two things. So, of course, the I Am She and She Was Me, which is a trans specific campaign. But the campaign that I'm doing from a large perspective, which is open for any and everyone, is a campaign of healing has options.
Mm.
And we're going to be getting ready to do a little something starting on this Sunday, actually. That's called A New Way to Worship. What
Mm.
I believe is that when it comes down to us as Black people, I can't speak for the brown folk and the white folk and all these other people. I can speak
Mm-hmm.
for a Black person because I'm Black. So when it comes down to us, I believe that when our ancestors were brought here, that we lost a lot of culture. We lost a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things, and the things of which we lost. It's important that we understand that we didn't necessarily lose it. We just never got in touch with it
Yep.
or in tune
Mm-hmm.
with it. And
That's
so when we
right.
say something like healing has options, what is the option of meditation? What is the option of having an altar? What is the option of burning money that you give as
Mm-hmm.
gifts to your ancestors? What is the option of saging or smudging? Like, what are
Mm-hmm.
all of these different options? And because of us growing up Black, many of us was all taught to go to the Lord, which is
Mm-hmm.
great. But the Lord also gave us a toolbox and tools to be able to do more things with. So I definitely want to try to help people to be able to get more in tune with those tools and utilize those tools and know that they're there. So I definitely suggest that if you're in a place to where, especially like when it comes down to losing your mother or losing loved ones, I have things that we'll be doing for that. There's all different types of practices. The most important thing is always knowing that healing has options and that those options are always available to you because you are the person that matters the most. And you were so divine and so great that you were beautifully created, wonderfully made, and these options are there for you. So if you ever happen to have any questions, please reach out. If you have ever happen to have a person who's trans identified and you don't know what to do, it may
Yeah.
be them, it could be their mama, it could be somebody that you with, it could be somebody you sleeping with. Hell, I don't even care who it is. You're more than welcome to give them my information and to connect with me. I will tell you this: I do not have all the answers. I do
Mm-hmm.
not have all the answers. And you know what? I can't help everybody. But one thing
Mm-hmm.
that I can tell you is that I will do my best to do my best. And sometimes my best just may not be enough. And that's the reason why we reach out to others. That's the reason why I can reach out and touch somebody and I can call on someone else who can do that as well. So please, I believe that I am here to be able to be used and to help people in the best ways that I can. And I just really want for people to know that one, healing has options, and two, I'm here.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad so much you were here tonight. All
Well,
right.
thank you.
So thank you, thank you. Those of you, please check out, subscribe right here. I put it in the chat. I am Dee Dee Watters on YouTube. She's also on Instagram and Twitter, and Dee Dee Watters on Facebook. And
Mm-hmm.
where this is her Cash App, DD832. So please send her a love blessing.
And thank you for
And
that.
you're welcome.
Thank you very much for that. And thank you for having me. I appreciate the fact that you even reached
Thank
out
you
and
for
wanted me to come on.
coming on. And I know you have a busy schedule. Here's the other ways to contact Dee Dee. Remember, she's looking for employees and clients. Okay.
Yep. And we'll also be bilingual. as of next Wednesday. So we'll be bilingual. And then we're probably going to try to upgrade it and take it up a few more notches. My business partner is Vietnamese. So I want to, baby, I want to
Yes.
have it all, honey. I want to
Yes.
show people that
Vietnamese
we
is
can
the
get
third
it.
most common language in Texas.
Absolutely. So
Okay.
we're getting there. We're trying to get there. I'll be there very, very soon. And I just hope that people are able to come with me for the ride.
Okay. Okay. Here is also your email. Remember, she said she has some of the questions, not all the questions. And here are the resources. These are not the only organizations, but these are some of them.
Right.
Okay.
And know that they do have a lot of groups that are out there. Like, I forget what you call these groups. I didn't help set them up. But they do have like trans groups that are out there. They have groups for
Mhm.
parents that are out there. Another one
Mhm.
that's an interesting one is PFLAG. PFLAG is a good one for parents too. And that's
Okay.
where parents come together to be able to talk about their children who are transitioning and to be able to have someone that they can talk to as well.
Mhm.
Now, also, I'm going to be doing a little something different. I planned on doing this year, but due to COVID, it kind of changed things a little bit. I planned on trying to get back with the schools and getting with the school
Mhm.
boards to make sure that these resources were also very easily accessible to parents. Because I feel like whenever you're sitting there trying to say that you're doing something for a child, we have to be mindful of how accessible those things are. So I
That's
definitely planned
true.
on doing that. I don't know if it's going to still be something that's like in my immediate focus, but I definitely plan on bringing that conversation up to a lot of these school boards. Whether or not they have protections for trans people or not is not really all that important. It is very important,
Mhm.
but being able to make sure that the resources that are already available can at least be accessible or accessed
Especially if
by those
they're
schools as well.
especially if they are in school and maybe the only place where they actually can be themselves is school. They need a resource to
Right.
help them once they leave there.
Right.
Because they might
And
not
while
have
they're
mom or
there,
dad. They might not have mom or dad when they leave
right, but
high
also while
school.
they're there.
Yeah,
Right,
while they're
also while
there.
they're
Yes.
there. And that's important too, because it's important that you say that, because what a lot of people don't understand is that I hate that I do this, but a lot of people don't understand how things like there's this what do they call it, like domino effect, right? So the
Mhm.
more things that they try to take away from trans people, they turn around and try to take it from cis people too. So like if you
Mhm.
really start paying attention, like really, 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 really pay attention, like the things that they take away from black folk are also the things that they'll take away from trans people too. So
Yeah.
it's like really look at this stuff, like really, really pay attention.
Yeah.
So like they tried to take away the equal rights ordinance, and just because they felt like
Mhm.
trans people was going to use certain bathrooms.
And I
I've been using the
still, for
women
the
bathroom.
life of me, I voted for that for Hero. And then all of a sudden, I start hearing the ministers like, "Oh, we gonna have this in the restroom." I'm like, "Wait a minute, when did this become about restrooms?"
Right, but
Then
guess
that
what?
was
But
a
but this is
yeah.
the thing though. So understand something. That is the most touchiest subject for me, because I've done.
Mhm.
So one of the things that we didn't even talk about is I've done toys for kids, probably for about 14 years, something like
Mhm.
that, in Houston's third ward and fifth ward. And out of
Okay,
all those
great.
years, every year I was buying toys. I was buying toys from survival sex work. Hello.
Mhm.
Like I mean, I was when I started working, I was sitting there not paying bills, not paying rent, because I was trying to buy toys. My mama would tell me, how you gonna get somebody some toys and you ain't even gonna have a place to stay? Stupid. But that's what she was saying. She had a point. But
Mhm.
this is the thing. I would go and I would reach out to those churches. I would call those churches. I would email those churches. I would send information to political people
Mhm. Ooh, what happened?
I don't know what's going on. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. No, I can't hear you.
Okay, now.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so I would send these pastors these emails, these invites to come out, because, again, as I told you, when I transitioned, my mom put me out. I had a
Mhm.
little brother, and my mom put me out right after my little brother was born, and he's now I think 20 or something like that,
Yeah.
and because she said that I was contagious. And so whenever I would pass out these toys, every year, as I prepared the toys, I would cry the night before, because I would sit there and I would cry and I would pray that I would not be contagious and someone would not catch something from me for years,
Oh.
for years. And probably as I got down to about the last 5 years of it, that stopped. Like I had to stop myself from thinking that I was
Mm-hmm.
contagious. I would still cry because I didn't want to stand in front of those children, and knowing that, like I'm in predominantly black neighborhoods, Fifth Ward,
Mm-hmm.
Third Ward, and to be like, I'm inviting these pastors and people to come, and like I'm trying to get people to be the face, like to be seen in everything,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't want to be contagious to these children. I don't want for these children to see me
Mm-hmm.
and think, you know what, I could be like her and do this. You know what I'm saying? Because
Mm-hmm.
afterwards, if their parents know, or their parents figured it out, or whatever the case may be, they're going to say something. We know how that goes. You see what I'm
Okay. Yeah.
saying? And so it hurts me, because these same pastors that sit up there and call me a predator, you know what I'm saying? These same pastors were pastors that I invited to come out, and they never showed up. They sent their congregation, though, to come and get toys. They sent their congregations, but they never showed up. They never
Mm-hmm.
showed up. I wanted these young black boys to not see some black transgender woman standing in front of them. I wanted
Mm-hmm.
them to see a black man that was doing something. So I invited people like the White Boykins. I invited people like the pastor over the pastors that's all in that area. The White
Mm-hmm.
Boykins, after I called him out doing Hero, he sits there and sends me, I think, $250 for the toys for the kids that I'm doing in the neighborhood. And I give out like over 300 toys a year. But you only can give me $250.
Mm-hmm.
So, like that hurt. The other reason why it hurt was because my mother was raped. And my mother at one point in time was like, yeah, because I don't understand, I'm okay with you coming in the bathroom, but all this other kind of stuff, I don't know about that. And you know what I told
Oh
her? I
wow.
said, Mom, and mind you, my mother never heard me curse. My mama died and never heard me curse. I had to tell her that the thing is that I need for you to be mindful that you're changing the narrative whenever you sit there and you try to say something like that. Because
Mm-hmm.
mother, were you raped in a bathroom? Were you raped by somebody in a wig? Were you raped by someone who identified
Yeah.
as trans? No, you weren't. You were raped by a guy who the family knew. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Other people who have been raped are not raped by some trans person using the bathroom. A lot of people are not even raped in bathrooms. And so it's a problem that they try to use that as the narrative. And so
Mm-hmm.
this hurts, because now when they're trying to push that, a person gets raped or a child gets messed with, and the first thing that they try to start doing is was the person
Mm-hmm.
trans? And a lot of times when people endure trauma, the first thing that they do is go with whatever the first question is they answered with that same question. So if you go in there and they say, was the person trans? Like it's just different. And so that really, really made me upset, because it's not trans people that are out here raping and hurting people. A lot of times it's these people
Mm-hmm.
that have it's men with power. It's men with power that are doing this, and people that have power. So,
Toxic
and not
masculinity.
only,
Yeah.
yep. So I think let's see, no trans is going to touch you or your child when using the restroom. Right. I mean, it's so sad.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that, Tina. It's so sad that that's what people tried to change that narrative. But guess what? So because black pastors got together and encouraged black community, black bodies to vote against this ordinance, now black bodies can be turned away from certain places, facilities. Do you see what I'm saying? Black
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
bodies can be discriminated against, and it still be legal. And
Mm-hmm.
see, people try to tell me all the time, well, we can go on the federal. Well, how about if you can file a federal lawsuit? Loan me
Mm-hmm.
$10,000. Because I know good and dang on well it's gonna run you about 50 to do it.
Yeah. Okay. Blitz Beauty. I'm really struggling with you, and I know
So
Blitz Beauty. Did you not see the statement before this one? Nobody who is a trans woman is going into the restroom to touch you or your daughter. They're
I'm gonna
going
say
to
this.
pee and wash their hands and go.
So let me say this to that one. So Bliss Beauty, I want to say this. The problem that I have with that type of a comment or a statement is this: nobody should be in the bathroom messing with your daughter. Period. Let's be honest about that. And so when we talk about those types of things, we have to be mindful in what we're saying. So when you say, "Oh, well, I don't want a trans person to be in the bathroom with my child because they might touch them," what makes you think that that trans person is going in the bathroom to touch your child? See, in all actuality, whenever they started doing this, the people that needed protection when we went to the bathroom were trans people, because there were other ignorant people that were trying to come in there and attack us because we were going in to use the bathroom. I want to make something extremely clear to many of the people that are watching this. For the last 5 decades, we've been using the bathrooms of which we identify as the restrooms of which we identify as. We have been, if you have used a public bathroom, you either have been in there with someone who was trans or after someone who was trans. So
Yeah.
understand that part. It is extremely important to be mindful that when we sit there and say that we don't want someone to be touching our children, that is a statement that needs to be made, period, straight across the board. And stop sitting there trying to put it off on trans people, because, baby, I guarantee you, whenever you go back and you look at these same pastors that were sitting there saying that somebody that had been touched, when you go back and you look at these same white men or these people that have power, masculine power and privilege, it was them who were doing it. It wasn't trans people. It wasn't trans women, and it wasn't trans men. It wasn't trans folk. And so that's a problem. Like, the problem is that whenever we sit there and we say things like that, we're trying to do something to where it's just like, hey, saying, "Hey, I don't want black people in my neighborhood." So don't sit there and say, whenever somebody comes out and says something like that towards you, whether or not you're black or not, I don't even know. But whenever something like that would happen, don't even sit there and feel that kind of way, especially if you can sit there and honestly say, "Well, you know what, hey, I don't want trans people in the bathroom with my daughter." When in all actuality, your daughter would probably be safest with a trans person in the bathroom, because at the end of the day, a trans person is not trying to do anything but go in there, utilize the facilities, hopefully wash their hands, and go out, which should be the thing that you would be doing too. And if we're that concerned about our children when they're going to the bathrooms or to the restrooms, why are you not in there with them? Because I want to make something extremely clear. This is a problem. People, we are a part of the problem because we change the narratives of things and we act like certain stuff is not there. Okay? Many of us who are feminine beings have experienced certain types of harassment that have come from people, and they were not trans folk. So let's be real there. Let's also be mindful that it's not always men or masculine folks that are participating in rape and molestation. It's not always men. Sometimes it's women too. So what we should do, instead of trying to pull the wool over children's eyes or our own eyes, we should sit there and we should say, "You know what? I want my child to be safe in the bathroom, period."
Bliss Beauty. Who are you talking about?
So even okay, so I'm gonna say this. So Blitz, I totally get where it is that you're coming from. I think that we need to be extremely mindful of what it is that we're saying. I've seen teachers who have messed with their students. So whenever we sit there and we talk about trans people that are trying to mess with young boys, we need to really be mindful of where it is that we're coming from. That's just like, you can't sit there and talk about a trans person who's out there being ratchet and act like, "Oh, she should not be ratchet." It's cis people that is ratchet. So we all have the right, and we all should be equally charged, right? And so I feel like when you say that, that's a little tricky. You know what I'm saying? That's just a little tricky. That's not me. Like, that's not me. I run around and say I'm 21 all day long, honey. But if somebody come up to me and they telling me they 18, 19, 20, I can't do that because I can't remember when I was that age anyway. So I'm not going to do that. I can't participate in that. And I do think I see where it is that you're going with that. But I mean, I can't really go with that question.
Okay, who is the trans woman on social media? That doesn't mean that all trans women are doing that. What
So
are you talking about? Are
let
you
me.
talking about who I think you're talking
So
about, Bliss Beauty?
who is it?
Because if I think who you
Because I
talking
don't know.
about, she would cuss you out anyway.
I don't even know who it is.
Ugh.
Oh, but anyway, let me say
Mm.
this. I'm gonna say this. I like, it's one thing to say something, it's a whole other thing to act on something. I think that it's problematic in both ways, just depending on how it goes, right? Um, So I don't even know how to respond, because I've seen grown women tell
Mhm.
young men that they were attractive or that they were going to be a handsome young man as they grew up. So it's like, it just makes me wonder, whenever you say something like, "Oh, somebody said that a young boy was fine," what is it that you're classifying as a young boy? First
Mhm.
and foremost, and then even then, like, understanding that just because back to the black narrative, right?
Mhm.
So I can't sit there and say that because I was walking to my car, a black man robbed me, that every time I'm walking to my car, that the only one that will rob me is a black man. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Exactly.
So you can't sit there and say that every trans person is going to be looking at young boys. You get what I'm saying? Or young
Mhm.
people, period, and finding them attractive. Like, you can't do that. Like, that's problematic.
Mhm.
Like, that's really problematic.
Mhm.
So, I can only imagine what the other questions was like. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna end down on Blitz Beauty. But I want to tell everybody this, though. This is the one thing that I do want to tell everybody. So first and foremost, to everyone who asked a question, thank you very much for doing so. Because I believe that it's extremely important that we just don't close our eyes for the last time and be ignorant in things that could definitely happen in our own backyards, right?
Mhm.
Um, so I definitely appreciate the people who ask questions. I even appreciate the people who ask questions and their questions didn't get asked because they were just not worth asking. I think people who watch today, I appreciate you all for watching, because it's really important that you all decided to take some time out of your day for little old me. I appreciate you for even inviting me on and having me to
All right. You're
come
very
on and be
welcome.
a part of your show. I really just really hope that from this someone got something. I don't even know what it is, whether or not it's a good something or not. I just hope that you got something from this, and I hope that we can be mindful of what our own personal lived experiences are and
Mhm.
were, and understand that trans people have lived experiences just as well.
Mhm.
And just looking at it from that perspective, I am a very simple person. I just want to be treated like just another person. I don't need you to know everything about me, because guess what? I don't want to know everything about you.
Mhm.
I do want to
Mhm.
know the facts. The facts is that black trans women are being murdered.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Black cis women are being murdered. And when it
Mhm.
comes down to us being murdered, we're not always being murdered by the police. You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
And we need to have these conversations, because our black kings, our black men, our black brothers are are doing something that is not only hurting us, but it's hurting them. It's hurting
Yeah.
them. And that is a hurt that is there. There's a hurt that's there for the person who is murdering us, and there's a hurt that's there for the person who's being murdered or being abused or
Mhm.
experiencing that violence because they are allowing it. And there's a hurt that's there. And we need to talk about that hurt. We need to talk about trauma in black community.
Yeah.
We need to
We
talk
do.
about trauma in black community. We need to talk about mental health in black
Mhm.
community. We need to talk about healing and the fact that healing can have options and it's not always church. We need to talk about that in black community.
Mhm. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Okay. Thank you again so much for coming on
Thank
tonight
you.
and for answering the questions. Uh, and definitely, I'm going to put all the information you gave to me in the description so that we can also have this as a source. Thank y'all all tonight in the chat for your questions. Also, please do me a favor. Like this video, share this video, okay? Leave a comment. Because guess what? There may be someone in your life who needs to see this video. Share it on Facebook, share it on Twitter, DM them in Instagram. Okay. I definitely have shared this video, put links to this on all my social media accounts because I want people to leave here more informed than when they came here. Okay. Please hit like if you haven't already on the way out. Thank you again, Dee Dee, for coming. Thank you, moderators. Thank you, everyone in the chat who came tonight. I want everyone to have a very good evening. Okay. Talk to y'all later. Bye.